Okay, my outstanding friends, this is going to be a trip. How to talk to a science denier with Lee McIntyre. Well, this is Lee McIntyre, and we're going to go through exactly what he has to say very shortly and how he's telling the academics at the Royal Institution, which is the premier place. It's in England, and this is where all science is supposed to be accepted or rejected. And he's showing how to reject what I consider to be science, because I consider myself to be a scientist. And I will show you why I consider that first, and then we will discuss what he has to say. I am not a science denier. I am a true scientist. Okay, you would expect a scientist to have some basic equipment, microscopes, and, the stereoscopic type and the very slide type, and, periodic charts and radio Geiger counters and all that kind of stuff. And, yes, I do have that. Okay, so is Roger a science denier? Well, in some respects I am. That is light, and that is light accelerating. Is that denying Einstein? Absolutely. Einstein was wrong. Light is light. If that's the speed it goes, that is accelerating light. Nobody can tell me that is not. And if that is the case, Einstein was wrong. So, yes, maybe I am a science denier. But I think it should be looked into from what I'm showing. That's the particle. That is what just got pulled out of the light wave and accelerated, and it exploded right there at the Venturi, which created something called muons and electron neutrinos, where that black and white ball exploded. That's called fission. These are the muons and the electron showers after the concussion, which is the muons. The little black balls get away. The electron showers continue on. I would say that's pretty scientific. And if this is the case, there was a Cornell paper put out about 2p, it's particles and holes. And here it is right here, 2p, 2h. Where is it? There it is. These are the two particles and the two holes. And they said they had found that, and they observed increased energy, which means free energy, is what I've been talking about. So I would say that's pretty scientific. If we could get free energy, that would be nice. And the red electrons look exactly the same because they are also light. And here's how they become manifested. Let me get this out of the way because it's a smidge reflective, and that is because the radiance of the glowy particle portion, not the holes. The holes are just like you fell in there and never came back out. They don't reflect. They don't absorb anything. Literally, when I say you fall in there, it just does nothing. They don't reflect, they don't absorb, they don't emit, they don't concuss. They strictly are gravitational black holes. And the white part is the particles. And those are the things that concuss and glow, and we see them, and they attract, and they push, and they shove, and they explode when they hit the Venturi. And the only reason we can see any particle nature here whatsoever is because we created that Venturi, which forced them to explode. I would say that's scientific. At least it should be looked into. And I'm blocked from everywhere, even including the Department of Energy, United States, Fermi Lab, all of them. They don't want to see what they don't want to see. Now, am I a science denier because I don't like what they're saying because it's not true? Yeah, I guess I am a science denier because they say, here's what the science is. You say, oh, follow the science. Well, follow, what does that mean? Does that mean follow the true reality of this, or is it follow the guy that says I'm a scientist, so what I say is science? That's what we're into right now. That is my rub. And let me show you about our history and the science being ignored there, which is another undisputable fact. This, if anybody can dispute, this is what I expect should be done. It is not done because it cannot be disputed, because I am a science denier that has reality, not just guesses, which they do. There's no account. Look at this. Hold on a second. These are the things that aren't even understood now. This is amazing. These are unknowns. What is light? They don't know. Don Lincoln from Fermi Labs thinks it's nothing. He says it's not. It's a wave. It's not a particle. Anyway, they don't know what it is. Nobody does. except me. I just showed you what it is. It's a particle, and it's a back-to-back black and white ball. Those are two little bar magnets. They have a field surrounds them. They make a wave going because the field pushes everybody else's field. That's the wave. The particle, so it's particle-wave duality. Case closed there. Gravity, what is that? Nobody knows. They don't know. They don't know why you drop something and it hits the ground. Newton says, wow, look at that apple. Fell and hit the ground. Whew, he's a genius. Nobody has a clue. So I guess I'm a science denier because I think gravity happens from that black ball that I showed you, wanting to be touching every other particle that glows and concusses like everything that hits the ground, because the Earth is an attractive dark matter source. It wants all the white matter to attract to it. We can see that's its only intention is the white matter to attract to the black matter. So, am I the science denier? Yeah, I guess I am. Light speed, I showed you, accelerates. There's no question it accelerates. Science denier? Yep, that's me. Space is a vacuum? No, it's not. It's filled with the electrons, which I showed you are the particles coming through space from the sun and every luminous source. So space is not a vacuum. Am I a science denier? Absolutely. What is my claim? Electron flood theory. And electron flood theory says there is nothing but electrons. Am I a science denier? Absolutely. I say the Bohr model is done. There's no such thing as 14 or 12 or whatever different particles they have now. They just hit things together so hard that bits and pieces, billions, literally, I'm telling you, billions and billions and billions, hundreds of billions of particles, they dig through them for 20 years to find the things that we found in 15 minutes. Using a cell phone and a construction laser. That's what you just saw. See, this is what annoys me. Am I a science denier? Absolutely, because I know exactly what protons and photons and electrons are made of. And they are made out of the tiniest particles there is, which is the electrons. They know this. They know they can keep breaking them, breaking them, breaking them, and get down to the muon and the electron neutrino. They know that. But they have so many other chunks laying around that it's like taking something like this. Let's just step back to Roger the science denier. What do we have here? Well, we have a nucleus. And what is a nucleus? A nucleus is the center of an atom. And what is that nucleus? That's the nucleus of a hydrogen atom. All right? It's just a big one big ball of hydrogen, a proton. No, it's not. They know it's not. They can break the protons into little bitty pieces, but there's so many chunks of pieces that they think they're all separate, different types of pieces. Well, they are not. They are all made of this one piece right there, a muon and an electron attached together, the explosive part and the dark matter. They've been looking for dark matter. There it is, right in front of their face forever. Now, this is the nucleus of a hydrogen atom. And what is it, Roger? Well, it's 1,840 electrons. They are all dipoles. It's dipole electron flood theory. There's nothing but electrons. That's why when you hit these things with matches, these things just explode in billions of pieces. Hydrogen is just like a bomb. I mean, hydrogen is the biggest bomb on the earth. And hydrogen splits into electrons. You know, you can get electricity out of hydrogen. It's fully understood. It's not. There's no mystery here. So where is the electricity coming from if you just got hydrogen? Where's the heat coming from if you just got hydrogen, the smallest particle, proton? No. They can split into tiny pieces, but they don't split into bazillions of different styles of pieces, quarks and leptons and muons, and they do split. This is what an electron is made of, right there. That's it. Bing bong. This explodes when it hits something. That's a bomber. This one does nothing. All he wants to do is get back to that one. All right? When you have two of them back to back, two little bar magnets, that's all it is, you have a photon. It bounces, and we see it as light. Depending on how hard it hit, how hard it comes back, the brighter the light is. It's not a big mystery. They can make it mysterious with all their little doodles. And I did all the doodles. So let Let me show my history here of what I did in the past. I started out in 1968. Well, actually before that, I worked for General Electric on gigantic motors. But in 1968, I went into the Army for nuclear Nike Hercules missiles. I was in the Army in 1968. In the early 70s, I got out, and I went into physics. This is my paper on physics about the dipole nature of everything. It is not. There was nothing that could be a gigantic positive in the center and a little tiny negative floating around it. But I ran into this science deniers, which was academia, and they are the science deniers. This is a paper I wrote. All of this stuff was done years and years, well, 50 years ago. There's two types of intermolecular forces, dipole-dipole interactions. And then I went on to describe how they have to be negatives and positives. You can't have just a negative, and you can't have just a positive. And I did a lot of this. This is not like a one-day deal. I went to and I did all the chemistry in the lab. I did all the heat exchange experiments. I did everything to verify everything I was saying. What I was saying was science denial, because they wanted me to just say what they told me to say, and I said, no, absolutely not. It's just wrong. Well, I decided I would get out of it. I went into light energy. Light, I'd written here somewhere, light is nothing but atomic vapor. I got it in there, X-rays, spectroscopy. This was back 50 years ago. This is when I just started, and I stuck to it forever since then. But somewhere in here I have written down that light is nothing more than atomic vapor. I go through this fairly regular to see what I had written back then, because these are basic rules, off-bow, Pauli exclusion, all that stuff. These are Hund's rules, and I tried to figure out everything they were talking about. It didn't make any sense. All they did was come up with a bunch of little doodles on a paper and say, well, we have to assume this and assume that, and we're going to call this a constant, and they just had no idea. I can't find it. It's in here somewhere. But it's all got to do with light and heat and energy, and it all breaks down to all chemical forces are electrostatic. Atoms form, blah, 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 blah. Well, I guess you would call me a science denier, because I deny what they say is true science, because I did the work to show. There it is right there. Bing bong. Transfer of energy from light to atomic vapor. 50 years ago. They just don't, they cannot accept this. Don Lincoln at Fermilab, he called me a tinfoil hat guy. There's no such thing. Light is this. And then finally, after like 50 times back and forth, he blocked me. He wanted to demean me and show him that I was an idiot, and it came out just the other side around there. So he ended up saying, I'm not going to look at anything you show because you're not peer-reviewed. So therefore, it gives him an out to say, well, since everybody else says you're an idiot, I'm going to say you're an idiot, and I won't look at it. He says, actually, his exact words were, I will not spend 1 minute. Now, this is after 50 emails. And I have all the evidence. I could show you the evidence. I don't know if it's 50, but there was a whole batch of them, and they were not friendly. And so after that many emails, to not take 1 minute to see the things that he's supposed to be the expert at, muons and electron neutrinos that we created, that, I don't know, am I the science denier? I'm not sure that would be me. So now let's move on to geology and history. This is a big giant stone, but guess what? It's a fingertip from a big giant that is now stone. This is the fingernail. This is the pad of the finger, the back of the finger that touches up against the next bone. It rocks on there. The fingertip is very large, and the fingerprints are still quite good shape. There they are right there. This is called grip skin, which is this very thick, heavily keratinized skin. I am quite well versed at the things that I make comments about. I am not a science denier. I am a science truth teller, and I can accept truth. That's the difference between me and an academic. These are the fingerprint ridges. These are the sweat pores. This one ridge is about the size of my fingertip. This is DNA certified. No question whatsoever, they are human. This is the tests that go back to 2015. 2015. And there was 3 different samples sent off. I extracted it. I was very careful. I just showed you that they are anatomically perfect. The chemistry is correct. It went through a very detailed analysis, and everything came back that it was human, and it was dense, excellent quality DNA sequences obtained from the 36-inch gigantic fingertip, and a lung as well. I also sent a lung as well as another giant blood sample. Excuse me. Now, I took them right out of the arterial network because I know that I am also anatomically pretty well versed, and I understand the anatomy and where the blood rate goes and how arteries and veins differ. And the arterial blood is the red blood. The vein blood turns black in blood in mud fossils. Now, this is not unscientific. This is not science denial. This is science in depth. Now, if my friend that I contacted, who has done this book, will discuss with me, I would love that. Now, I did put this up, and I said, please address the scientific evidence from my channel. Go to Mud Fossil University. Just pop in and comment. I use DNA, CAT scans, experiments, including energy and chemistry. I have all of that. I have studied all of that in extreme depth. I'm 73 years old. I've been doing this 50 years of atomic research, and all the rest of the time trying to find out all the other things that the atomic research delves into, because every single thing there is based on electronic flood theory, which is everything is made of electrons. The core of a nucleus is not a big gigantic positive. It is all electrons, which are dipoles. My new theory is dipole electron flood theory. 1839 dipole electrons make one proton, and that's their resonant value. At that quantity, they become stable, and they just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. We just saw it add another proton, throw a couple of neutrons in there. No, you add more and more and more electrons, and that creates a bigger and bigger and bigger molecule or atom. So anyway, I am not a science denier, and the Royal Institution, I would hope, would say, let's talk to Roger. Let's see what he has to say. He's come up with some pretty good evidence. Let's see what he has to say. We are scientists. We want to know the truth. And that, I see very little of that. And they point to people that are really crazy people, yes, absolutely crazy, that are saying this is our, and there are all kinds of conspiracies and flat earth, and there's no Mars, and there's no space, and, you know, it's just insane. Yes, absolutely. My stuff is not insane. My stuff is 100% backed by factual evidence. And I expect at some point it'll have to be addressed. And at that point, the people that have been refusing are not going to look well at all. And that is Yale University, Harvard, the University of Geneva, Fermilab, CERN, NASA, all of these people, JPL, I've tried to contact all of them, and they have now blocked me because I have presented the evidence that they cannot talk about. And they did exactly what he says. Say, oh yeah, we'll talk to you, and then cancel and block people. That's how they handle the evidence that they don't want seen. And this is exactly what he's saying. This is how we handle these people. Don't let it be seen. Once they see it, then they're going to get contaminated. No, they might take a different opinion based on new evidence. That's what science is. I'm hoping that this fellow here is going to stand up and be a real, true scientist. If that's what he's talking about, I mean, talk is a good game, but following through on the words that you say will tell me what you're really made out of, my friend. And I'm hoping to have this engagement with my friend here, Lee McIntyre. So, Lee, I'm ready for you, my friend. Okay, my outstanding friends, this should be extremely interesting. This is how to talk to a science denier with Lee McIntyre. Now, I actually contacted him, and he said he did receive my email, so we'll see if he's going to treat me as a science denier. Now, here's the way they apparently react to people that they don't want to listen to what they have to say. Here's what he's saying right now. Here's how you treat them. Here he goes.
What that means is that it's better not to share the bad information in the first place. And Betch and Schmidt actually have a little joke in their paper.
He's talking about having debates and discussion with people that they feel have bad information, such as me. But my stuff is all DNA tested and CAT scanned and anatomy and chemistry and everything else. But they are really the ones that deny that science, in my mind. Now, I don't want to be disrespectful to him. He just wrote a book saying here's how we should deal with these people, which is me. So I want to discuss with him as a scientist. I am a material scientist. Not a single word I have ever said is not backed up by a material, substantive, factual, evidential base. So here's how he says they should deal with me, is to treat me like a fool, basically. It sounds like. Here's what he says.
Where they say, if you're invited to a debate with a science denier, say yes, but then at the last minute cancel. If it means that the debate will be canceled, because then people won't hear the bad information.
Which is my bad information. They don't want my information out there. But if the debate still goes on, well, then they have to show up, he says. Listen.
If the debate's going to go on anyway, then you have to show up. The worst thing is for bad information to get out there, incorrect information. But the second worst thing is to not show up and just.
All right, and this is what I'm expecting for him to show up to my discussion, because I am going to discuss it one way or the other. And if he's written a book about how to deal with science deniers, I am not a science denier. I am a scientist, and I am a very, very accomplished scientist. I know chemistry, I know biology, I know physics, atomic physics, nuclear physics. I understand all of that, and I will discuss that with anyone that he can present to me. Anyone in the world. However, we have to do it on a Zoom meeting where I can present my evidence, not just make discussion, because talking is cheap. Evidence is evidence, and that's what I present.
Just to have it out there and be uncorrected. Okay.
So he would try to correct me, or the person that was debating against me would try to correct me. Now, I would present my evidence, and then I would like to see how they respond, because my evidence is factual. It's not saying, well, I wrote a book that says 60 million years ago this happened and that happened and so forth. Well, I can show you that this happened, and a goose became a stone, and that's his feathers, and that's his neck, and this is nucleophilic substitution. I understand this better than anyone in the world. I discovered mud fossils. I had them tested. I had DNA CAT scan. That all 9 yards is done, and they were giant human beings, several of them. So this is where I become a science denier, because I have presented things that they cannot tolerate. And they will run away from the debates, which they have. Nobody will stand up to me.
So, as an academic study, as I said, this was a brilliant study, but there were a couple of limitations in it. Not that there were flaws. What they showed was what they set out to show. It was well done, but there are some limitations in how you apply this study to the real world. You and I, for instance, want to know how to talk to science deniers in real life. This experiment was done online, okay? It was done in a lab. First, I want to talk about the limitation of time proximity. The study only dealt with debunking science denial messages immediately after they were heard.
Here's what happened. They tried to do a study by telling somebody, here is what we're going to teach you. And then 10 minutes later, say, whoops, we made a mistake. And could they change their minds back from what they originally taught them 10 minutes ago? Well, obviously, they just heard it for the first time 10 minutes ago. But somebody that's ingrained from the educational system in academia, who has been told, if you don't say this exactly the way I told you to say them, I will destroy your life. they don't have the ability to speak up against that, because their lives will be destroyed. If he turns around and talks to me and discusses the things I have to say and then denies them, I can't imagine what his he will do the same thing he just said. He said, "Oh yeah, I'll talk to you," and then he's going to run away. I'm almost certain of that. If he will stand up as a real scientist, I'd be surprised to death.
Okay, so they would present the false information and then they would immediately debunk it. But what do you do about overturning the beliefs of somebody who is not hearing the bad information for the first time? In fact, what do you do about somebody who's been marinating in misinformation?
Academia. That's a good one. I like that. Marinated in misinformation. And that's exactly what happened. Let me show you a couple of things that just stopped this in its tracks.